Britain's economy is moving at a crawl, and the reality of that stagnation is most visible in the grocery aisle. Everyday essentials carry price tags that stretch household budgets to the breaking point. Years of high costs and low growth have left the public exhausted. Voters feel entirely disconnected from the legislative process, simply waiting for new leadership to offer some sense of direction. Next week, AndyBurnham steps into that vacuum as Prime Minister. It is a position he secured after 2 failed attempts to lead his party. He doesn't read like a typical, highly polished politician. People who know him from local football changing rooms describe an ordinary guy who happens to be involved in high-end politics. He talks directly, without the usual rhetorical filters. That exact warmth and straightforward communication allowed him to accomplish something crucial over the last few months. He managed to calm the warring factions within his own party and project a single, unified front. Winning over colleagues with charm solves internal disputes, but personal appeal is a very different tool than the mechanical gears required to actually govern a country. In his first major address as leader, he laid out those mechanics. He bypassed vague optimism and immediately proposed massive, structural interventions into the private market. First, he pledged to take the nation's water companies away from private shareholders and return them entirely to public ownership. Next, he announced that the transport sector would also be nationalized, placing legacy rail networks back under state control. Finally, he promised heavy state intervention in the housing market, aiming to directly manage everyday residential real estate. Yet in the very same breath as these sweeping public takeovers, he promised that his government would be strictly pro-business. Aggressively seizing key industries usually discourages private investment. Reassuring corporate boardrooms while actively nationalizing their peers requires a delicate, highly specific economic roadmap. Right now, Burnham is promising both massive public spending and robust private sector reliance. He has constructed a platform of opposing goals without offering any explanation of how they can possibly coexist. He hasn't laid out the mechanics because he hasn't had to. There are absolutely no details on how these buyouts will be funded or executed. Currently, he is protected by the parliamentary calendar. The legislative branch is on its summer break. This recess means he doesn't have to face questioning from MPs in the chamber. He is completely shielded from making any unpopular fiscal decisions or explaining the math behind his pledges. We are watching a political honeymoon. It is a period of high approval built entirely on unchallenged speeches and good intentions. But this protective bubble is an illusion created by the calendar. His overwhelming support is a byproduct of the democratic process hitting the pause button, rather than a proven record of policy success. That pause ends in September. When the summer break concludes, the shield comes down. When Parliament resumes, Labour MPs will expect to see the actual numbers. They will use their return to demand the granular, step-by-step details required to execute his nationalization strategy. This is where his expensive promises will hit a wall. They are about to violently collide with the reality of Britain's empty coffers and poor economic growth. This chart reveals a mathematical impossibility. The first bar, capital required for nationalization, grows exponentially high. The stagnant second bar represents available government revenue. Bridging this massive gap leaves only painful options: abandon the takeovers entirely or aggressively raise taxes. Choosing either of those paths will alienate a segment of his supporters. The compromises required by the math threaten to instantly fracture the exact party unity he spent months building. He secured leadership through personal appeal during a period of zero scrutiny. His ultimate legacy will be measured by whether that charm is strong enough to survive the fallout of breaking promises in a struggling economy.